Hare Krishna, dear friends, devotees, all our senior citizens, adults, all our aunties, uncles, all our kids. We welcome all of you to this Gita Essence series, which is the level 2 program of our Gita learning. So, first, we have completed the Gita Wisdom course. Yesterday itself, we had completed that Gita Wisdom course, which was a level 1 course. And now we are moving ahead towards Gita Essence, which is chapter wise discussion, chapter wise learnings of Gita wisdom. Before we are gonna proceed towards this particular session, which is this first session on chapter 1 of Gita, I want to highlight, or I want to share the profile of our speaker. So, with due permission of our speaker, His Grace Madan Sundar Prabhuji, I would like to introduce him to all of you. Madan Sundar Prabhuji, he is currently the director of Evolve Pune, who is having the philosophy of promoting self-excellence and positive living. Madan Sundar Dasji holds a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering from the Ohio State University, USA. He has worked at Juniper Network USA as a research engineer and was awarded with the prestigious Employee Excellency Award for his research efforts in the year 2011. Inspired by the message of Bhagavad Gita and the life of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ji, ISKCON's founder Acharya, he returned to India in 2012 and joined ISKCON as full-time student of Vedic arts and sciences. With encouragement from teachers and friends, he started the corporate education and empowerment forum called Evolve, which is and all of us are currently a part of Evolve. And the philosophy of Evolve is sublime living and high thinking. What exactly Evolve Pune does? Evolve conducts regular cultural and educational events, not only for corporates, but also for teachers and students. And not only in Pune and India, across Pan India, we have done our courses through the virtual settings and through the physical settings also. Notably, Madan Sundar Das ji so far has conducted session on the lifestyle management, mind management, themes of Mahabharata are the most sought after courses. He has designed specific courses for kids, and he has discussed the teachings of Ramayana and Mahabharata with kids during the lockdown season we had faced in India. And he had conducted several sessions with lots of reputed corporates, which includes Persistence, Accenture, Symbiosis Institute, and many more. His goal is to bring mindfulness into the workplace, increase self-awareness, and promote positive living. Under his divine inspiration, the Evolve Pune team is bringing this Gita Essence series to all of you. So now, without much ado, I request Madan Sundar Prabhuji to take over this particular session. Over to you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother Dipasha, for hosting the event despite your busy schedule with the Symbiosis University. So, just to briefly introduce our host for the Gita Essence event in English, Mother Dipasha. She is a PhD from IIT Roorkee, if I'm correct, and she is a professor at Symbiosis University, Symbiosis Management College at Hinjawadi. So, thank you so much for creating a facility where all of us can come and interact with each other. So we welcome you all for our second level program, which Mother Dipasha just introduced, titled as the Gita Essence, wherein we are striving to complete 18 chapters in 18 days. It's an effort, it's a milestone to achieve in itself. So we'll try our best to stick to the timings and schedules and do the overview of all the 18 chapters. So we sincerely thank all the participants, all the students, all the devotees and guests and well-wishers who have joined this program. I'll begin the program with a short prayer. In case you are aware of the prayers, you're more than welcome to recite along. If you're new and you're not aware of the prayers, close your eyes, fold your hands, take 3 deep breaths. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So let's begin with our session. So this is a Gita Essence series where we are trying to cover or give you the overview of Bhagavad Gita. So this is entirely based on the teachings and on the writings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, our inspiration. So let's begin with very fundamental and the foundational topic for the series of talk which we are doing based on Bhagavad Gita. To start with, what is Bhagavad Gita? So some of you may be familiar, some of you may not be. So that's the reason I'm just going to give an introduction to it for a few minutes, and then we'll begin our chapter 1 discussion. Bhagavad Gita is a classic conversation between Arjuna, a dear friend and dear devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, as you all might be aware, which took place around 5,000 years ago at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the setup was such where it was a fratricidal war between the family members. At one side, there were Pandavas, who were followers of Dharma, who were establishers of Dharma. On the other side, we had Kauravas, headed by Duryodhan, who represented Adharma, who did everything in his life to usurp the kingdom and the rights of Pandavas. To an extent, he insulted his own Bhabi. You understand, Bhabi in Hindi we say, his brother's wife. Public humiliation, public insult, which was never ever known in the history then or up to that point of time. Kali Yuga is a bizarre time, so anything can happen in Kali Yuga. But at least 5,000 years ago, when this incident happened, there was not even a single recorded case of such kind of a behavior done by somebody from a royal class with a woman, that too their own relative like that. So Bhagavad Gita is a message which is spoken in this onset, which represents the victory of divine over demoniac, establishment of dharma over adharma. So many times when we discuss about Bhagavad Gita, people say, Bhagavad Gita, is it really relevant? 5,000 years ago, the message of Bhagavad Gita was spoken. How does it help us today? Well, metamorphically, it is described the same divine and demoniac, the same battle that happened 5,000 years ago continues to happen even up to today. Then the battleground was the land of Kurukshetra, Dharmashetra Kurukshetra. Today, the battleground of that battlefield is not outside of us, is inside of us, at our internal level, what we call as a heart, or at the mental level, or at the mind. There is a constant tug of war between the two voices of the divine and demoniac. Sometimes the demoniac voice becomes prominent and we are forced to act against our will. And very few times, or maybe sometimes, the divine becomes stronger and quietens the demoniac voice, and then we act accordingly. The message of Bhagavad Gita is equally important for us today because it helps strengthen the divine within us. It helps establishes the divinity with each one of us. It helps establish our relationship with the supreme divine, and that is the core essence and the message of Bhagavad Gita. This message of Bhagavad Gita is not a sectarian or a religious message. What we call of a religion today was never existing at that point of time when Krishna spoke this message of Bhagavad Gita. Recently, in our previous level 1 program, we discussed in detail what is dharma and what is religion. Religion means a sectarian faith, where a group of people come together and they align and say, yes, I believe in it. That's what called as religion in English. Religion is faith-centric. But then the religion, or what we call as dharma, was not faith-centric. About this dharma, Lord Shri Krishna speaks in length in Bhagavad Gita, what is called as varnashrama dharma, based according to one's guna and karma, which means according to one's natural inclinations and propensities, every living entity was given an opportunity for an occupation to engage oneself according to one's nature. Therefore, that time, in general, people were very content because they did what they like to do, unlike today, where everyone is forced to do against their will, take to an occupation only with an understanding to earn money and maintain family. Like or dislike is of irrelevance in today's time, and that's the reason there is such a great dissatisfaction. If I have to ask you this question, I believe we have prepared some polls here, so I would request if we can go with the first poll. So I'm just created some polls here just to connect with each other, and the first poll that I want to bring out here is about: have we faced challenges in keeping commitments, acting righteously at all times? Just now we spoke about the divine and demonic within us. So as I said, the message of Bhagavad Gita strengthens the divine within us. In that context, this is the poll where I just want to interact briefly with you all to ask, do you face challenges in keeping commitments? Do you face challenges in keeping up to the principles of dharma? If yes, if you have experienced this, yes, no, maybe what not, whatever answer you give, so you are able to understand the concept of this divine and demonic within. So, okay, all of you are replying to it. So go ahead, we'll take a pause for that, fine. And after this, as we were speaking about the Varnashrama Dharma, until 5,000 years ago, there was only one Dharma, that is called Varnashrama, and is also called as Sanatana Dharma. So according to that Dharma, which Krishna defines in Bhagavad Gita, earlier the idea of Dharma was to engage, was to act according to one's nature. So can we go to the second poll? We can just pause. It has to be less than 60 seconds. So it's in the same part. So we can show the results once. Okay, that's so it's right away. Or share the results. So we can see 93% of you experience this. So great. So that makes a point. Can we go with the second poll? We were talking about Varnashrama Dharma, as I said, which allows one to engage according to one's propensity, which is unlike today. So the question that I've raised here: how many of you have experienced or have felt, wish I could change this job? Probably I have not taken, probably I would not have taken this profession. I would have been more happy. So just to start with how Bhagavad Gita is relevant. Generally, I make this comment in the level 1 till the time you are giving your answers for this particular poll. Bhagavad Gita is like a navigation application on your smartphone. More than that. But what a navigation application does, it allows you to find a shortest route to your destination. And when you're stuck in a traffic, it reroutes you and takes you to the destination. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita, the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita helps us reach our destination. All of us have our own set of goals, have our own set of destination that we want to attain in our life. Somebody wants to be a wealthy person, somebody wants to be a successful, and different degrees of destinations of the goals we may have. So similarly, the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita helps us stay tuned to our goal and mission and helps us navigate our life to reach that. And whenever we are stuck with challenges in our life, faced with it, then the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita helps us to deal with it, rise above it, and continue our journey. And here comes the third and the main point, which is not supported or provided by the Google apps yet, or the navigation applications, wherein you feed your destination, whereas the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita helps us redefine our goal of life. Just like the scripture says, Asatoma Satagamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Our goal of life should be eternity. Our goal of life should be light. We are living in the world of darkness. We are living in the world of mortality, and we should aim for immortal life. We should aim for eternal happiness. So that's in essence a brief introduction about what is Bhagavad Gita. Let's come to the chapter 1. We have a lot to discuss, a lot to cover in less than an hour. So let's continue our discussion. Chapter 1, Bhagavad Gita, titled as Observing the Armies. It is also called as Arjun Vishad Yoga. Title plays a significant role in helping us understand the purport or the import of rest of the chapter. So what is this title Arjun Vishad Yoga explains us about the chapter? It tells us that how Pandavas and Kauravas have assembled on the battlefield and they all are eager to fight. But by the end of chapter 1, Arjuna decides not to fight. Arjuna decides not to engage in war, and now at the end of the chapter 1 we'll find Arjuna becomes totally bewildered, and that is what this title indicates, the journey of Arjuna from a great warrior who frightens everyone at the side of Kauravas, from that situation to a situation where he falls down on his chariot crying with tears in his eyes, and his Gandiva bow is slipping off his shoulder, and he tells to Krishna, "My dear Lord, I shall not fight." And this is where the chapter 1 concludes with. Now, the title, Observing the Armies, the Srila Prabhupada gives, is also very interesting. Observing the armies, in other words, what it means, is the key turning point in the chapter 1 that led to the confusion of Arjuna, observing the armies. Just like I'm wearing this particular glass, if it is a dark color glass, let's say if it is a red color glasses if I'm wearing, how would I look at the whole world? I would find the whole world to be red colored. So as it is said, what we perceive outside is nothing but the reflection of our own consciousness. Similarly, how we live our life, how we deal with others, how we react to situations is all very subjective, or not subjective, it's all very relative, and it all boils down to what consciousness or what vision we carry. So Bhagavad Gita is a book of transformation. What does it transform? Is it going to transform the external world around us? No. The wisdom of Bhagavad Gita transforms the world within us, the inner world. And that inner world comprises of our perceptions and the vision of this eternity. So wisdom of Bhagavad Gita is a journey of transformation of our vision. Our vision glued to the concept of I am this body, I am the controller, proprietor, enjoyer. I can do whatever I want, to a vision where I see in harmony, where I see myself in harmony with all the living entities of the world. The vision where I see myself in connection with the Supreme Lord. The vision wherein I see I am just a tiny part of this whole entire cosmic creation, where I have a purpose to fulfill, where my life has a purpose. And this is a journey of transformation that Bhagavad Gita introduces us to. And that is what this title brings out a lesson or a message through this chapter 1. So Bhagavad Gita has 5 key subject matters. Who is Ishwar, who is Jiva, what is Kal, Karma, Prakriti, which was predominantly the subject matter of the level 1 course called as Gita Wisdom. So let's start with the chapter 1 now. Chapter 1, verse 1, very interesting verse, not spoken by Krishna nor either by Arjuna, although this is Bhagavad Gita, which is a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. Rather, Bhagavad Gita begins with the key conspirator of the battle of Kurukshetra, not Duryodhana, but Dhritarashtra. And it begins with Dhritarashtra Vacha, where Dhritarashtra is speaking to Sanjaya. And Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyusavaha Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. And herein Dhritarashtra is inquiring from Sanjaya. And on this inquiry, there are many beautiful commentaries written by our acharyas. I'll just give you 1 or 2 of it to create an environment of excitement of what's going to happen in this chapter. So here, interestingly, Dhritarashtra is inquiring from Sanjaya, my dear Sanjaya, what happened at the battlefield? Samaveta Yusava, where everyone has assembled to do what? Yusava, for fighting, for Yuddha. And therein, my son Mamaka and Pandava, the son of Pandu, have assembled. Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, what did they do? Now, this is a very bizarre question to be asked by the Thrashra. Definitely, he's blind and is foolish by all means, but this is height of foolishness. Doesn't he know what's going to happen on the battlefield? These are the Kshatriyas who love to fight. They have gone on the battlefield. Are they going to play cricket or football there? Of course, they're going to fight. So, why still Dhritarashtra is asking such a strange question? And the answer is in the first line Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra. Dhritarashtra was worried the place of pilgrimage, the place of dharma, which is Kurukshetra. He was worried that place of dharma may have an influence on Duryodhan. And who knows, Duryodhan may have a change of heart and he may realize that he is wrong. Although he knows he is wrong, but he have not realized it because he's blinded by his ego. He's blinded by his greed. So Dhritarashtra is worried. Maybe Duryodhan may get this realization being influenced by this place of dharma, and he might have a change of heart, and he may surrender to Yudhishthira and say, Yudhishthira, I give your kingdom back. That's the reason Dhritarashtra was worried. That's the reason he asked this question. What did they do? In other words, fight began or not? Sanjay, tell me. They have started to kill each other. In other words, that was the question Dhritarashtra wanted to ask. What does Dhritarashtra means? Dhrit means determined. Rashtra means gaddi, which means the seat or the throne. So Dhritarashtra, interesting name, which means the one who was very, very attached to the throne. And we know the story. I can't go into the details of the whole story from Mahabharata here. That would be the part of level 3 program called Gita Life, where we go into details of each verse. But as you know of, Dhritarashtra was not blessed to be the king from his childhood, although being the eldest son, because he was blind. So his younger brother Pandu was given the seat or the throne of Hastinapur, and he felt that as a great injustice done to him by the will of the providence. He always looked for an opportunity to regain the kingship. Eventually, there was a turn of events, and he got that opportunity only temporarily until Yudhishthira becomes to be 18 years of age. Despite Yudhishthira becoming 18 years of age, despite Krishna Balaram being in Mathura that time, where Kamsa had already been killed, the Ugrasen's kingdom or the rule had been established, where Krishna personally sends Akrura to Hastinapur to warn Dhritarashtra and remind Dhritarashtra Yudhishthira when he's 18 plus. And temporarily that time Yudhishthira Maharaj was appointed as the prince, the next king, and then that the Laksha Graha event, the incident happened where Duryodhana arranged for Pandavas to go and attend the ceremony or the religious function of Lord Shiva, the gathering of devotees of Lord Shiva, where they attempted to kill them. In other words, the Dhritarashtra tried every possible mean to keep the kingdom in his own hand. That's the whole idea. However, whenever he was challenged, whenever he was asked, why are you supporting your son and your son's sinful activity? If you read Mahabharata, it's very interesting where Dhritarashtra would always say, I am a helpless father. What to do? As a father, I'm attached to my son. I cannot be blamed. I am a helpless father. And he would always play a victim card out. Victim card? Does there anything like victim exist? Or there is something called as victimhood? Krishna gives a beautiful answer of it in the third section of Bhagavad Gita, which means chapter 13 to chapter 18. We'll take a look at that time. What is victim mentality or victimhood? So he always played the victim card, but nonetheless, he acted like a mafia don. Who is a mafia don? Who acts behind the facade or behind the wall, and he orders his people to go and execute. So he is like a mafia don who is having his sons, 100 sons, along with Karna and Shakuni, are his representatives. Yet when he comes in a public forum, he acts, he pretends to be all innocent. And this is the Dhritarashtra with which this message of Bhagavad Gita, the storyline begins. So that's an introduction why we have Dhritarashtra, which is another commonly asked question. Why would Bhagavad Gita begin with Dhritarashtra? So to make this subject matter easy and easily digestible and also to remember, we're going to use acronym. This acronym is given by Sutapa Prabhu, His Grace Sutapa Prabhu from Bhaktivedanta Manor. So I'm using this acronym for this purpose, of course, that I always do. So the acronym for the chapter 1 is doubt, where D stands for Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan from verse number 1 to 12. We already discussed verse number 1. Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, and now Sanjay begins to tell Dhritarashtra what's happening on the battlefield. And Sanjay chose to explain first about Duryodhan's activities. So what is described in this section are how Duryodhan walks around his army to encourage them, because Duryodhan and the Kauravas had not expected the Pandavas would have an army. They thought nobody would support them, because anyways they were away for 13 years. By that time, Duryodhan and his brothers had already created many allies. So Duryodhan and the Kauravas did not expect the Pandavas would even have an army. Duryodhan and Kauravas had 11 Akshani Sena, and here Pandavas had 7 Akshani Sena, a little more than the half. So when Kauravas saw that, they were already terrified, because among all, there is one person who was a terror for all, who was death personified for all. That was Lord Shri Krishna. In fact, everyone knew who Krishna, because Krishna, just before the battlefield, had gone to Hastinapur as a peace messenger and had shown his Virat Roop. Of course, that was a semi-Virat Roop to the Kauravas, where every warrior had seen who Krishna is, yet or not yet, and therefore everyone knew who Krishna is. So everyone was terrified. Duryodhana, understanding that my army, my people are frightened, seeing the huge army setup of Pandavas, he began to rally among all of them, began to glorify his side of people, and began to compare with the opponent. Because in those days there used to be an opponent, they would choose whom to fight with, and people would like to fight with an equal opponent in that way. So he compared Bhishma with another. He compared Drona with other, and he was saying, "See, we have Bhishma and Drona. You can never lose a war because we have Bhishma and Drona." And what is so special with Bhishma and Drona? Bhishma has Ichamrityu. Unless he decides to die, nobody can kill him. And same with Dronacharya. And with Dronacharya, he had a blessing that he can never lose a war. He can never lose a war. He can never be defeated. Now, if you have people like this, a great warrior like Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya, who are invincible, undefeatable, and cannot be killed, there's no question of not winning a war. So he began to speak about it, and then Sanjay tells to Dhritarashtra, "Hey Dhritarashtra, your son is in anxiety and he's fearful." That's the reason he's speaking like this. So here Duryodhana's diplomacy and inner fear is expressed. So question arises, why ever Duryodhana would be frightened? How can he be fearful? He has the best of everything. He has 11 Akshani Sena. He has the best of everyone. He has Shalya, who by a trick, who was an uncle of Pandavas, by a trick, Shalya had to agree to the proposal of Duryodhana. He had Shalya, he had Karna, he had Shakuni. You name a warrior. He had 100 brothers. Of course, 99 brothers. He was the 100th one, the first one in that sense. Why Duryodhana would still be worried? To give you a very simple example, if somebody is a thief, even if he wears a nice suit boot, still at all times within his heart there is always a fear. There's always a lingering fear. I can be caught at any point of time. Yes or no? One who has done a crime is always worried because he knows today or tomorrow I can be caught. And this is this fear that frightened Duryodhana for 13 years. Mahabharata mentions that Duryodhana could not sleep even a single night peacefully. Whereas Yudhishthira and Pandava slept very peacefully on the bare earth without any comforts of the royal life, where Duryodhana had all the comforts, he remained in anxiety. What to speak of Dhritarashtra? If I start speaking, it will become a Mahabharata session. But that's just to give you an idea. So this particular episode of this Duryodhana's diplomacy and the fear of Duryodhana teaches us some very valuable lessons. Lesson 1. Material security and resources does not guarantee success and fearlessness. It is often seen that people who have more wealth and more possessions, to that degree, they're more afraid. So what makes us fearless is a subject matter worth pondering. There are 4 things that Mahabharata explains which are common between humans and animals. Ahara nidra bhayam aitunam cha. samanyam pashubhiranarna. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubhi samanaha. What are the four things? Ahara, nidra, bhai, maithunam. Bhai is also translated as to protect oneself, which means fear. In other words, bhai means fear. So this fear is one factor that keeps us always suffering, despite of whoever we are. If you become the best cricketer, you become the most famous film star, if you become the most liked and the most watched YouTuber, or you may be the person on the Twitter with the maximum followers, if that's what Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is, can you still be freed from fear? The more you have, the more fearful you are, because more you have to worry about maintaining the reputation. What makes us fearful is a subject matter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna repeats this particular verse twice. First time in the 4th chapter, and then later on. What is that? Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Hey Arjun, give up attachment, Bhaya, fear, and Krodha, anger. We shall discuss about on the subject of fear when we come to the set of verses. But right now, for you to think, if you know of the answer, you can very well type in. What do you think can make us fearless? Lesson number 2. When the individual becomes self-centered, egoistic, and is primarily interested in selfish gain and personal aggrandizement, then fear, anxiety, and disappointment are inevitable. Unfortunately, such an individual becomes oblivious to the ill effects of their actions. Think about Duryodhana. It is explained, Dhritarashtra was blind from his childhood physically. Duryodhana became blind voluntarily out of his greed, out of his envy and competitiveness towards Pandavas. He chose to be blind. What it means? Duryodhana, to fulfill his greed, to fulfill and satisfy his ego, knowing very well that all my seniors, everyone, even Gandhari came and told Duryodhana, you are a fool. How can you ever defeat Krishna? And Krishna personally have shown Duryodhana and Kauravas his divinity in their own assembly hall. Yet Duryodhana was adamant. He said, I am willing to destroy every single brother of mine. I'm willing to let all the soldier of my army die, or all those who support. I'm willing to give my own life. But I will not give even a land equivalent to where the 5 needles can be pierced, or a land equivalent to the size of the tip of the needle. Still, I would not give. And that is the point here. When the individual becomes self-centered and egoistic, those who are interested in their own personal gain, then fear, anxiety, and disappointment are inevitable. This is something which I feel is very important for all of us to reflect in today's godless civilization, atheistic civilization, where we are taught this life is all in all and we should try to do whatever to fulfill our desires. Duryodhana, although well educated in Vedic scripture and Vedic science, acted like, or we can say the modern atheist more or less act the way Duryodhana acted. Try to justify one's ego, try to fulfill one's desire, and therefore, according to statistics, today we have 3 times more number of suicides, almost more than 50% increase in the cases of divorces and all criminal activities in that sense. Our so-called material progress have actually not given a progress to us, have digressed us, have made us backward, wherein rather than living a more happy and meaningful life, everyone is wondering, why are we suffering? Particularly COVID time definitely brought about certain realizations. Therefore, we have many more people showing interest in the message of Bhagavad Gita. And for his own sake, he allowed 60 crore people to die. Anyways, let's continue. The second section, we just completed the D, Duryodhana and the Dhritarashtra, verse number 13 to 20, where O stands for ominous results. Ominous results for whom? Not for Pandavas, but Kauravas. Here Sanjay describes the Pandavas' activities, and describing Pandavas' activities, he indicates to Dhritarashtra, your sons are doomed. They cannot win the war. And here Sanjay explains how the Pandavas, along with Lord Shri Krishna, blew their conches. Just when Krishna blew his conch, half of the army of Kauravas fainted on the ground. They fell on the ground just by hearing the terrifying sound of the conch of Lord Shri Krishna. Think about when Bhima, Arjuna, Nakul, Sahadev, Yudhishthira all together blew their conch. It is explained, those who were standing on the chariot, they crashed on the chariot. Those who were sitting on the horses or the elephants, they slipped from the animal and fell on the ground just by the sound of the conch. And we know that Hanumanji was personally present on the flag on the chariot of Arjuna, and Hanumanji had promised Bhima, hey Bhima, when there would be a war cry, my scream would also join the scream of the Pandavas on your side and will shatter the hearts and the hopes of the opponent. And that is what Sanjay explains, that how the Kauravas got terrified. Not even a single weapon has been shot. Just by the transcendental sound coming from the transcendental conch from the lips from Lord Shri Krishna, terrified and shattered the hopes of the Kauravas. So result is ominous, which means Krishna factor. The key message from this section is Lord Krishna's protection is guaranteed to his surrendered devotees. Regardless of whether the worldly odds seem stacked against the devotee, in other words, those who stand on the side of purity and righteousness are always victorious. Sanjaya, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, what's your opinion? What all Krishna spoke to Arjuna, what do you think? Is there any hope for my sons to win? And this is the concluding verse, 18th chapter, verse number 78, where our Sanjaya says, Yatra Yogeshwarah Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanamdhara. Wherever there is Krishna and where there is Partha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. There are four things wherever Arjuna and Krishna are present. What are the four things? One is Shri, opulences, Vijaya, victory. There is Bhutir, there is Niti, Niti means Dharma, and there is all the strength. Like these four things are available where Krishna and Arjuna are present. And that's the whole message of this particular section, because Krishna was by the side of Pandavas. The presence of Lord was enough to make it very clear, the Kauravas, you have no hope. And of course, there is a discussion that happens between Bhishma and Duryodhana also, which is described in Mahabharata. So Lord protection to his surrender devotee is guaranteed. Therefore, Pandavas were fearless. And the lesson from this particular series of verses is our faith on Lord Shri Krishna determines our degree of fearlessness. Just few minutes ago, I asked, what makes us fearless? And here's the answer. Our faith on Krishna determines our degree of fearlessness. Let me give you a very quick example. We know the discussion comes in the 5th book of Mahabharata, the Parva, called as Udyog Parv, where everyone is preparing for the war. They're trying to negotiate and simultaneously preparing for the war. Arjuna takes permission from Yudhishthira Maharaj to approach Krishna at Dwarka, and similarly, Duryodhana comes from Hastinapur to Dwarka to meet Krishna. Coincidentally, or the will of providence was such, both Duryodhana and Arjuna arrived at the same time at the palace of Krishna. As soon as Duryodhana saw Arjuna coming, he began to run faster, thinking that if I am able to approach Krishna first, then because I approach Krishna, so he has to, listen to my request first. That was the rule of conduct between the Kshatriyas. He ran, but to his disappointment, Krishna was sleeping. So the servant of Krishna said, well, you have to wait. Both Arjuna and both Duryodhana and Arjuna went inside the chamber where Lord Shri Krishna was taking rest, and they both are waiting. It's a beautiful description which is given, but the gist of it. When Krishna woke up, Krishna asked, why both of you have arrived here? And Krishna, of course, knew what's the purpose. So Duryodhana explained the purpose and the intent of coming. Then Krishna said, well, because both of you have come, I'm willing to fulfill both of your desire, and here's my condition. One of you can choose my whole Narayani Sena, which is as powerful as I, and the other can choose me all alone. If you choose me, know for sure you would only have Krishna without any weapons. I will not pick any weapon and will not take part in the war. You can use me, engage me as you like, but I will not pick up a weapon. And Duryodhan was a little bit, was excited, was still worried. Now, who Krishna is going to give a chance to ask first? For Duryodhan, it was obvious what I got to do with Krishna, a cowherd boy, a man without even having weapons. He's useless to me. That was Duryodhan was thinking. So then Duryodhan said, Krishna, so because I came first here, I have a right to ask you first. And Krishna politely refused. Lord said, Duryodhan, well, when I opened my eyes, I saw Arjuna first because he was standing right near to my feet, whereas you were standing next to my head. Moreover, Arjuna is your Anuj. Anuj means younger brother. So Arjuna have right before you, your elder brother for Arjuna, to ask first. Now Duryodhana was sweating. Now you can't argue. Krishna have decided that's what's going to happen. And Duryodhana is like, oh no, Pandavas get the whole Narayani Sena. It will create such a chaos for us. And Duryodhana is just completely fearful what to do. And when Krishna looked at Arjuna and said, Arjuna, so you go first. And Arjuna, even without thinking or blinking an eye, said, Krishna, I will have you by our side. And as soon as Arjuna said that, there was such a big smile of relief on the face of Duryodhana. It was like, fantastic. He didn't express like that way. He said, oh, my dear lords, if that's what my younger brother wants, what can I do? I will be happy. I will learn to be, I learn to be happy with whatever I get, whatever remains. So, okay, I'll take Narayani Sena. And he did like this, and he disappeared from the palace of Krishna and then went to Balram. And here, Arjuna's response even surprised Krishna. And there is a beautiful dialogue that happens between Krishna and Arjuna thereafter. The gist of it is where Arjuna told Krishna, my dear Lord, nothing matters to me more than your association. If my life has any purpose, is to please you, is to have your association. I don't want Narayani Sena. I don't need. If I have you with me, I can win against the three worlds. I don't fear for anyone. And that is this faith on Krishna, that Krishna will always protect his devotees. And Krishna makes a statement in the later section of Bhagavad Gita. Hey Arjuna, declare boldly that my devotees never perish. And that faith on Krishna made Arjuna fearless. Let's come to the third section where U stands for uncertainty. And the key theme here is, before I go to the key theme, what happens in this section is, here right now Arjuna requests Lord Shri Krishna. So this for the first time in Bhagavad Gita, the personality and the character of Krishna is introduced. Krishna is the hero of Mahabharata, is the hero of this whole creation. Mamai Vamsa Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. He is the father of all. Aham bija pradapita. Aham sarvasya prabhu mata sarvam prabhatate. He is the cause of all the creation, material world or the spiritual world. That the supreme hero is introduced. Generally, when you see movies, when a hero is introduced, he is introduced with a great pomp, with a great excitement around his personality. However, here Krishna is introduced as a charioteer of Arjuna. So here Arjuna requests Krishna, my dear Lord, please drive my chariot in the middle of the army. I want to see who have assembled at the side of Kauravas to fight with us. I want to see them for the first and the last time before the war begins. Krishna said, so be it. I'm your servant. And that's the time Krishna drove the chariot. And this is that section which talks about where Krishna brings the chariot of Arjuna right in the middle. And Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And that Krishna being introduced here as a charioteer, a humble servant of Arjuna. So key theme of this section of verses 21 to 27, the gist or the prominent message is, Lord is an intimate servant of his devotees, which means, these are the few highlighted points. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is willing to accept a menial position for the pleasure of his devotees. Let me ask this question. There are many things that we should ask and interact. But let's try for this. I can't see the chat window here. So if you can enable the chat window in the screen. So in if there is, how should I put it? Krishna loves to serve his devotees, and devotees loves to serve Krishna. Now, where naturally can you have service inclination? In what relationship? In what kind of a relationship you would be happy to, you will love to serve the other person? The mother and child. What does it indicate? Mother and child. It indicates wherever there is a love for another person, love indicates seva. Yes or no? If there is love, seva is a natural symptom of it. If I love someone, I would want to serve that person. Therefore, this beautiful incident where Krishna have agreed to Arjuna to become his charioteer, just indicates the Lord is willing to do anything for his devotee, to a such an extent where the Ashwarasya Samagrasya Virayasya Yashashashriya Jnanam Vairagyas Cheva, these are the 6 features of opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has in full extent, what in full extent? The wealth, the strength, the beauty, the knowledge, the fame, and the renunciation. That person who is the cause of all causes. He loves his devotee so much that he is willing to serve them as a humble charioteer. He is not an autocratic ruler or an order supplier whose only job is to punish sinners and law violators. I thought of putting this point intentionally because I had a part of a training in the Western world. And if you refer to the Western theology, it is all based on fear factor. Surrender or else go to hell forever. Surrender or else the Lord will punish you. That's not the idea of God or the Lord in Vedic scriptures. Rather, Krishna engages in various loving exchanges with his dear devotees, and he descends in the material world to attract our hearts to his loving devotees. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkratam dharma samsapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Arjuna, I descend to give pleasure and to protect my devotees, the foremost reason that Krishna himself says. So what is the lesson? Lesson at this point of time from this particular context is, despite the intensity of the situation, Arjuna was in such a situation of crisis. The war is about to begin. This is the personal application lesson that I've drawn here. Here, Arjuna asked Krishna to drive his chariot. He wants to see who is standing there. The war cries have happened, the conches have blown, the arrow can come flying from any direction. Yet in such a time of crisis, Arjuna tells Krishna, please drive my chariot, which means despite the intensity of the situation, Arjuna took time to reflect on his actions, which implies life may be crammed with responsibilities and pressing issues, but attendance to such demands should not be at the expense of quality spiritual introspection. Unfortunately, the chronic disease, I would rather call it as a pandemic, of modern man is the excuse of no time when it comes to such soul searching. Now we come to the 4th section of chapter 1, where B stands for bewilderment. I hope you all remember the acronym. Acronym is doubt. Here, this particular set of 3 verses describes what happened when Arjuna saw his relatives. How did Arjuna respond? It is what is being described here. Arjuna, when he saw Dronacharya, his teacher, when he saw his great loving grandfather Bhishma Pitama, who in the absence of Pandu, who in an unfavorable environment for Pandavas at Hastinapur, protected Pandavas, cared for them, loved them as being their father. Arjuna, when he saw his grandfather Bhishma, Dronacharya, his friends, the Gurukul friends, his other great Brahmanas like Kripacharya and others, Arjuna became bewildered. He got emotionally affected. He began to think, how can I fight with those whom I love? And these are these 3 set of verses that describes about it. So bewilderment, at this stage, bereft of broader spiritual vision, Arjuna's uncertainty intensified and he became bewildered. So, key theme here is illusion causes all problems in life arising due to bodily identification. I am Arjuna. I am the son of Pandu. Kauravas are my cousin brother. Bhishma is my grandfather. Drona is so. He's my friend of the. He's my friend Ashwatthama. Point that is being raised here is all of us acquire a particular body, and according to that body we acquired particular designations. I am a male, I am an Indian, I am so and so. These all are pertaining to the bodily identification. None of these designations or upadhis we had when we were born. We were given to it after we were born. And when we depart from this world, all these designations will fail or cease to exist. Therefore, this subject matter of bewilderment in this particular context describes, because Arjuna at this point of time kind of depicts a situation of a person who lacks spiritual vision, who lacks spiritual vision, because of which he is not able to understand that he is not a body, he is a spirit soul. And the very first instruction that Lord Shri Krishna gives to Arjuna in the following chapter 2 tells Arjuna, where Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, first understand the foundational life. You're not the body but spirit soul. And whom you're talking about as your relatives? You're talking about the same Bhishma and Drona. They were all assembled in the assembly hall where Draupadi was disrobed. She went and pleaded to Bhishma, Drona, Charya, Dhritarashtra, and all of them turned their face away, saying that we don't know what is dharma today. They could not even protect your wife, their own daughter. Where was their dharma when you were cheated on the gambling match, is what the discussion would happen later on. So that's the point here. Arjuna have got bewildered because of his bodily identification, which means aham mameti, me and mine. So what's the lesson this particular section gives us? When one lacks understanding of, what is an understanding? The transcendental knowledge or spiritual knowledge is based on three principles. Ishvara, who is Ishwar? Who am I? And what is my relationship? So when one lacks understanding of one's spiritual identity, his relationship with Lord, and the critical purpose behind the world, one inevitably becomes disturbed and frustrated by life's challenges. That's why Arjuna is bewildered, despite being the greatest warrior, despite preparing for this movement for last 13 years. He went and lived in heaven for 5 years with Indra and learned all the celestial weapons to prepare for this incident. Everyone advised them, even Indra advised him, Vyasadeva advised them to be prepared for the war. Yet today Arjuna is bewildered. Let's come to the last section of our chapter 1, where T stands for turning point. Turning point, which means here now Arjuna gives various reasons. My dear Lord, I should not fight. Now I decide that I am not going to fight. So here Arjuna gives different arguments. In verse number 31 to 42, Arjuna gives 4 reasons, and the second chapter he gives the 5th reason. For the sake of a continuity, we'll give all the 5 reasons here today. The very first reason that Arjuna gives is compassion. My dear Lord, it would be so cruel and heartless of me to prematurely terminate the lives of so many people. All of these people have assembled here either to defend our right or to defend the right of the Kauravas. For our sake, so many people would die. And this is one war which is said to be the mother of all wars, wherein more than 60 crore people died, and half of the 60 crore population disappeared. Their bodies were not to be found ever, ever. Such was the scale of the war. And Arjuna saw the whole massive assembly of the warriors from all over the world. He became compassionate. Why to put everyone's life at risk? For my sake. Where Arjuna is not understanding, it's not about your sake. If Duryodhana remains a king, then adharma will flourish. Because of Duryodhana, adharma would get established. And if adharma gets established, anyways everyone is going to suffer. Now the need is to establish dharma, is a fight between divine and demoniac. How can you shy away from the war on the basis of some sentiments? Arjuna's second argument, enjoyment. My dear Lord, with whom would I enjoy? Enjoyment or happiness increases when we share. There won't be anyone surviving to share because all of our friends and relatives would die in the war. So if you see, Arjuna is again and again thinking about the his factor. What about me? What will happen about of me after the war? And the third, fear of sins. If I kill my great grandfather, my teachers, my relatives, certainly I will incur sins. I will be sent to hellish planets. The fourth, destruction of family traditions. Because the protector of the societies are the Kshatriyas who are administrators. If all the Kshatriyas would die on this battle, they have come from the far off lands from all over the world, then in those places there won't be any Kshatriya remaining to protect and establish dharma or the course. Then adharma would increase, the criminal elements would take to the leadership, and then they will destroy the family traditions. They will corrupt everyone, because of which our traditions will be destroyed, is one prominent thing which later on we see in Kali Yuga. The leadership became corrupted later in the Kali Yuga, which is mentioned after Ashoka, particularly is mentioned in the 12th canto. After that, there was no living Kshatriya in essence. And after that, because that the leadership became corrupted, and that is what we have today. Hodgepodge. People think the Vedic scripture is a mythology, and what is a fiction like Darwin's theory, the chance theory by Richard Dawkins, is considered to be science. That's a bizarre reality of life today. And the fifth argument is, which is given in second chapter, is indecision. I don't know what is good or bad. What is the key lesson? The cause of Arjuna's bewilderment is his own self-interest. He's again and again thinking about what's in me, what's in me. However, he is not realizing what would be the consequence if we do not perform his duty to protect dharma. And what is the effect? Being too absorbed in one's own self-interest, the effect is fear, loss of composure, and indecision. Arjuna is not able to make decision. There is no incident or such a crisis which Arjuna have faced today ever before in the life of Arjuna, where he had to struggle with decision making, and today he is so much struggling with about what to do. Should I not fight? Here I have a simple poll for all of you to just find out. Have you faced or have you struggled with making decisions in your own life, or do you struggle with decision making? Can we please launch? Yeah. So you would see a quick poll on your screen. If you can just say yes or no, we'll get to know. And if you feel yes, the cause is given on the screen. We'll definitely discuss more on this. So the point is, life means up and down. And we all face various challenges in our life. With some we can deal easily, while others may have the potential to overwhelm us. Arjuna was overwhelmed and he could not decide what was best for him. Thus, out of frustration, Arjuna decided to quit. Often it is seen that when an individual is faced with crisis or an overwhelming situation, a common response to it is to quit. Yes or no? And that is where the quit goes to an extreme degree, where a person thinks of even quitting their body. So what Arjuna did at that point of time is similarly what we do even up to today, where we think of quitting. It means that although our situations could be different than that of Arjuna, but response is still the same. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, the situation of Arjuna did not change, but the response changed. That's the whole point. He became free from bewilderment and grief and eventually won the battle. Similarly, the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita can change our response to an overwhelming situation and help us win the battle of life. Do remember that we may not be faced with overwhelming situation now, but we can meet with such existential crisis at any time. We may not be faced with such overwhelming situations now, but how we deal with it when we are faced with such crisis determines where we end up. And lastly, how we conduct ourselves now determines how we deal with it then. In other words, message of Bhagavad Gita prepares us for dealing with the overwhelming situations of crisis which are inevitable for everyone. As the saying goes, as sure as death. One crisis is for sure. That is the death not only of us, but of our dear ones, which brings us far much more greater suffering. And with this, we conclude the chapter 1. And when we meet tomorrow, we'll begin with our chapter 2, one of the biggest chapter. However, before we conclude, just want to have a quick trivia, a quick question here. And the trivia here, just to see what you think about it, we have a poll where we can publish the poll. I'll request our host. And the poll is, do you feel Arjuna is right to retreat from battle out of compassion for his family members? People like Kauravas, Bhishma, Drona, do you think he is right or he is wrong? The graph is dancing with hands raised high. Sometimes the yes goes more, sometimes the no go more. Not sure is stuck, has become stagnant. So interesting. This is not a poll, the second part. Till the time you're polling, you're giving your responses. The second question is, if you were in Arjuna's situation, what would you do? Which means when you're faced with your own attachments, like Arjuna was faced with his attachment in the form of our Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya. So when we are faced with our attachment and the choice that time we have to make, choose the path of dharma or take care of your attachments. What choice do we make? A simple example. An attachment, somebody may have an attachment to watching a movie or a cricket match. Imagine tomorrow at the same time you have an India-Pakistan World Cup final and you love watching cricket. So what would you do? Attend Bhagavad Gita class to learn about dharma and think about, okay, let me watch a cricket match. What's the problem if I do that? Just so, big example here for all of you to think about. So can we share the result? Yes. So as you can see so almost 50% respond, where 44% says no, Arjuna was not right. That's what it means, right? And 38% says yes, Arjuna was right. Arjuna was right or wrong? We may debate today. We'll see what Krishna says tomorrow. We'll wait for Krishna to reply to this question tomorrow. With that, we come to the conclusion here. So tomorrow we meet with chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, or Gita, contents of Gita summarized. I hope all of you already have access to your student portal. So you can go to your student portal right after this session, log into your session on the student portal. There you'll find the quiz. For every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we have 10 questions. So today, the 10 questions will be there for chapter 1. Go ahead and attempt it. And of course, the recording and the PPT is already uploaded there, which you can always refer. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for joining us for today evening Bhagavad Gita session. Sincerely grateful to all of you. So back to you, our host. If there is something I can serve you all more, I'll be happy to do so.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for giving this overview of chapter 1. And it was a wonderful session because we were able to clarify our doubts and we were able to understand that whether in which situations we are going to act like Duryodhan or Dhritarashtra, how we can get the omnious results even during the uncertain times. But often we feel the bewilderment and how we can convert that bewilderment into turning point. So with this, I request if you have any questions, you may raise your hands. So I'll allow you to unmute yourself or you may post also here. So far, whatever questions were there, I have posted it. And now we can go ahead with some more questions. So if you want to interact, you may raise your hands.
So just a principle of interaction. At my personal side, I would prefer if someone who's asking a question can ask question directly, and if possible, if you switch on your camera, because it makes a lot of difference if I get to see who's asking, because we have a different age group all around here, so the response may differ slightly. So, and anyways, I am done speaking now. It's your turn. So at least I get to see who all are there attending the program also. So some student-teacher interaction may happen. Okay. In other words, if you feel comfortable, you may switch on the camera during the question answer. Hare Krishna. Back to you,
Hare
Mother
Krishna.
Dipasha.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So far I have received two questions from Devesh Shah ji, and Devesh Shah ji is already online. So Devesh Shah ji, I request you to go ahead with your question.
Uh, the first question is Prabhuji said that Western theology is about surrender unto me, surrender, that kind of us. I mean, towards the end of Gita, Krishna also says that, if you surrender to me, only then you have, you'll be delivered out of all the sins. Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Of course, I'm
Noted.
not a scholarly person like Prabhuji, but the meaning I could derive is only that. So,
Correct.
how is it different?
So, first thing, I never said the philosophy is about surrender, because if the philosophy is about surrender, then it's a correct philosophy. The premises of the Western theology is fear mongering. Surrender, surrender, or else get punished. If you don't surrender, you'll get punished. If you don't surrender, you go to hell forever. That's the idea. The principle of surrender is there across all the religion. There are four kinds of worshippers. One is on the level of fear, who worship God because he's fearful of God. Second worshipper is on the level of Ichha, who worships God because he wants some desires to be fulfilled. Third level, which is in the gradation increasing, is obligation. I acknowledge what all Lord have done for us. I'm obliged to serve Him. And the fourth and the highest level of love. When Krishna says Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, he makes that point at the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, where prior to it Krishna have already established the loving devotional service. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Arjuna, serve me with love. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prachati. I accept even patra, pushpa, phala, and toyam means water, if it is offered with love and devotion. Man mana bhava madbhakto madayaji mam namaskuru. Love me, serve me, remember me, talk about me. Like that, the n number of verses. Finally, Krishna says, Arjuna, give up all your other shelters. Take my shelter, and I'll take care of you. So, here the level of surrender which is being explained by Lord is on the platform of love. Love me, forget about all other things. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, scriptures like this establishes the principle of loving relationship with the Lord. That's the point of difference.
Uh, Prabhuji, the second, thanks for that. Second question which I had was about that Bhagwan Shri Krishna establishing a dharma, but uh, after Yudhishthir Maharaj, it was directly Parikshit Maharaj. So there was hardly anyone in between, and by after Parikshit Maharaj leaving, it was Kali Yuga having its full grip. So why was Lord Krishna's dharma establishment for only for such a short time? And if it was
No,
only meant for sorry,
I'll give you the details of that. It's a misunderstanding about the timing of for how long Dharma remained established. So the war of battle of Kurukshetra, the war of Kurukshetra was fought when Krishna was 39 years old, 89 years old, sorry. And the rule of Yudhishthira thereafter the war was for 36 years. And after that, Lord Shri Krishna at the age of 125 concluded his pastimes and went back, and so does the Pandavas. And that point of time, Yudhishthira Maharaj appointed Parikshit Maharaj, who was already grown up. Right at the time of war, when the war ended, just after some time, Parikshit was born. So roughly, we can say Parikshit was already 36-year-old when the Pandavas also concluded their, the ruling service. So there, Parikshit Maharaj was appointed, who lived for a good amount of time. After that, Parikshit Maharaj appointed his own son Janmajaya. The reasons known, as we know of, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed by Samika Rishi, not Samika Rishi, by his son Shringi. And then Janmajaya ruled for a good amount of time. Then his generations ruled for a long, long time. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto gives you the detail that dharma or the influence of Kali was not completely, had not overtaken. Kali was still kept at bay for a good amount of time. Buddhism was established 2500 years ago. So prior to that, sometime is where you can assume wherever the last great king. Of course, this is not about Ashoka. Ashoka was later on became a follower of Buddha. So way before that is a description of all the kings. So the principles of dharma had remained for a good amount of time. But the Kali Yuga was meant to be an age where this had to happen. Krishna says, "Kalosme" in the 11th chapter. I am the time, and nobody can change the patterns of the time. Whatever has to happen, what has been decided, is going to happen. We cannot question why it happened in the context of even for the Lord. Even Lord had to conclude his pastimes and go. The time had to happen because this is what the samsara cycle chakra has been created by the Lord. So unless it is necessary, Lord does not interfere in it. Lord comes, charms the heart of his devotees, establishes dharma, and then he leaves. And who says dharma is not established? Krishna may not be there today, but the wisdom of Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita is present even up to today. It is up to you and I to accept dharma, which means teachings of Krishna, and transform our life. Ultimately, is our choice. Previous ages, people made choices to follow dharma. In Kali Yuga, people made choices to follow adharma. That is how Kali Yuga became prevalent. Sati Yuga can turn into Kali Yuga if people in that age would make choice to follow adharma. Ultimately, it's a choice of the population or of the mass what they want to do. That's the
But
point.
in that case, we are taking away that Bhagwan is establishing the dharma. If it
No,
is
but
about the
Lord,
choice,
Lord establishing dharma in this world, everything is bound by time. There's nothing for eternity in this world. Evam parampara praptam raja rishayo vidu. Why Krishna is speaking this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna? Krishna says in second chapter, fourth chapter, second verse, Arjuna, the knowledge which I gave to the sun god Vivaswan was lost with time. So please see the point. Nothing is forever in this world. Therefore, Krishna says, Sambhavami yuge yuge. Again and again I come to re-establish dharma. So to think that Lord came and dharma was established should remain forever, Krishna himself says it's not going to remain forever because I as time destroy it.
okay,
Okay? No problem. Think or reflect on what I said.
okay.
Devesh, let's go to the next if there is some other more questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Roshan Kumar Prabhuji is has raised his hand, so I'll
Look at the
allow
chat.
him to unmute. Roshan Kumar Prabhuji, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, please.
Prabhuji Pranam. So
Yes.
basically, I have a very basic question. I'm sorry that it's not related to the today's wisdom that you have given. The thing is, in the life, what we face basically is based on how our deed is. Like what I mean to say is, we get the effect for the cause what we have created in that way. So suppose if somebody is doing good karma, so he's bound to get the good phala of that. So, what is the role of God in that sense? What I mean to say is that even Tulsidas ji said in the Ramcharitmanas, "Karma pradhan vissu kari rakha, jo jas karahi tas phal kar chakha." What I mean to say over here is that the Lord has made a rule in this world that the deed will be the prominent cause for misery, happiness, or everything. So, if so is the case, then what is the intervention of God in our life? Does God intervene our life in our life? Like
Thank
if
you.
so is the case, then what is the form, and how can I like what I mean to say is gaze that if I get something good is because of God grace or it's because of my own karma. So how to differentiate with these two aspects of life? That way.
So your
Thank you
question
so much.
is, thank you. Wonderful question, Roshan. Your question is about a philosophy, what is known
Yeah.
technically as Karma Mimamsa philosophy.
Yep. Yes.
According to this philosophy, karma is considered to be all in all. Where a person performs action and he is held responsible, and ultimately it is karma which dictates the future life of an individual and the circumstances and situations. So the foundation of karma mimamsa philosophy is that the karma functions independently of the laws of the Lord. However, the philosophy, the true siddhanta is, yes, what we sow is what we shall reap. But the laws of karma do not act independently. The laws of karma are created by the Lord, and they function under the supervision or supervising energies of the representatives of the Lord, where the system is such, just like I'm sitting in a Pune. Let's say in a Pune, somebody does some criminal activity. Let's say he jumps a traffic signal. He would be caught by the constable, he would be punished. So, does Prime Minister Modi is involved in the life of that person? Yes or no? Both the answers are there. Yes and no. How yes? Considering him to be the head of the state and head of the country, he's the one who have made the rules. So, because the constable is bound to follow, being the representative of the state, bound to follow the rules of the ruler, of the king in that state. And how no? Because he is individually not going to come and arrest you. But the constable who is giving you the result of your deed, which means of jumping a traffic signal, is not acting independently, which is otherwise considered part of karma mimamsa philosophy, which is another aspect of atheism where they don't acknowledge that there is somebody who supervises karma. In other words, who gives you the results. There are higher powers who gives the result. Now, what was the need of law of karma? I explained this in length when we spoke about why do bad things happen to good people. To understand the situation of the Lord is here. Lord has created all the living entities to allow them to live happily, have a loving relationship. We chose not to have that. Krishna said, so be it. Come to this world, fulfill all your desire as you want. Now, all of us have come into this world to fulfill our desires. Do you agree there's going to be conflict of desires and conflict of interest between you and I? Yes or no?
Yes, it could be.
Obviously, give you an example. Let's say there is a farmer and there is a potter. A farmer wishes rain to happen because then he would get good crops. The potter prays to the Lord not to rain so he could make good pots. Now, the same of them are worshipping the same Lord. My dear Lord, please give me rain. Other says, don't give me rain. And Krishna created this facility for us to fulfill all our desires. So Krishna said, so be it. You desire independently, then you perform an action, create your credit system based on which, if your credit allows, I as Paramatma is going to sanction your desire, and then I would facilitate material creation of the nature to provide resources for you where your desire is fulfilled. But if you don't have a karma credit, I would not sanction your desire. Therefore, Krishna created a system where every person is held responsible for all his actions. What you sow, so shall you reap. Krishna is going to speak about this in 4th chapter. We'll speak about that this point that time. If in case you're attending this program for the first time, I would strongly recommend to go and hear the recording of why do bad things happen to good people to get a little more understanding of the subject of karma. Last but not the least, on the subject matter of this karma, ultimately Lord wants us to be happy. Lord wants us to understand our existence is not, we are not meant to be in this world of temporary living. We are meant to live in the world where we can experience eternity, where we experience eternal happiness. Because when a child becomes naughty, that's the time parents put restriction. Yes or no? If a child gets, start using smartphone for a long period of time, the parents put parental application, restrict his utility. Yes or no? So all the laws of karma and all the laws which are put into this creation are because we are naughty child of our eternal mother and father who do not want to listen to them. Therefore, he has put some conditions around us so that we can understand whoever we are, whatever we become in this world, we can never be happy unless we reform ourselves and think of going back to the Godhead. Karma, akarma, vikarma. Vikarma is sinful activities, karma are pious, and Krishna says both are sinful. Do a karma, which means you continue your regular activity as you do, however, connect with me as a devotional activity. And the secret of how to do it we'll discuss when we talk about the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga, and then the 5th chapter, Karma Yoga in action or in Krishna consciousness. We'll have more detailed discussion that time. All right, Roshanji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I could see Kamalika Mataji was raising her hand. So Kamalika Mataji, are you online?
Clean.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, you are audible. You can ask a question.
Yes, Prabhuji, my question is that Duryodhana and all the Kuru brothers were all punished. They got their punishment, but why Dhritarashtra didn't get any punishment.
Well, he suffered the most.
How?
I mean, all through his life, he lived with anxiety and fear of losing his position. Isn't that a suffering?
Okay.
Now, what do you want him? You want him to be punished publicly and all that? Maybe so that can be the case, no doubt about it. But being on the highest position of the world, being the king of the world, he could not sleep even one night peacefully. I am not saying this is described in Mahabharata. Could that be any bigger punishment than this? Where you can't even sleep peacefully? What is the use of your bed made up of gold and pearls? You can't even sleep on it peacefully. It's of no use. So, as I was speaking about in the why bad things happen to good people and all that subject, karma, the moment you do a sinful action, the reaction is there definitely. May not be externally visible, but the person becomes definitely fearful, stressful, anxiety. He loses the peace of his mind. That's the reason sadhus, the sages, means peaceful, shanta. External situation can be all troublesome, but internally they're all peaceful. Why? Because they're pure. They don't do any wrong activity. And externally, someone may pretend, just like air hostess, if you go into the plane, whenever I travel, I naturally smile looking at them. Why? Because they're giving you a paid smile. They're paid to smile at you. Yes or no? Is
Yes.
what is called as in English as plastic smile. And when I
Yes.
look at them, and I always wonder, my dear mother, my dear man, I don't know, you're smiling, I'm grateful to you. I don't know what's going on in your personal life. You're pretending to smile. Looks like externally everything is wonderful, but what's your situation only you know and Paramatma knows. So ultimately, whatsoever state of mind matters the most than the external comfort. All right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And I believe Dhritarashtra suffered most because he actually saw the killing of his all hundreds of sons and
Yeah,
clans.
thank you for bringing out the point. I mean, that was terrible for him to see his dreams shattered, see all his 100 sons die. Now he has nowhere to bank on his to fulfill his desires. You know.
Prabhuji, next set of question is coming from Raman Grover ji. So Raman Grover ji, are you available? Would you like to ask it? You may unmute yourself.
So before we take further question, I see the time is 8:53.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So maybe we can take few more questions, but I don't want the others to feel obliged to stay online. If you feel voluntary to be online, you're more than welcome. But you can consider session to be officially concluded. I can be there for another 10 minutes to take questions, so it's all up to you. And do remember to log into your student portal to solve the quiz. Okay, Raman, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes, happy to see you. Go ahead.
Happy to see you too, Prabhuji. My question is, Prabhuji, is Sattvagun the only criteria to secure a place in Golok Dham?
Not at all. You need Shuddha Sattva good. Sattva good is not going to take you to Goloka Vrindavan. It will take you to heavenly planets. You want to go to Goloka Vrindavan,
So,
you need Shuddha Sattva good.
Prabhuji, while I say Sattvagun, that means devotional service. Okay. So obviously that means that, I'm chanting and I'm reading Bhagavad Gita and other associated activities.
So your question is Bhakti, the
Yeah.
essential commodity to go back to Godhead?
Yes, Bhakti is the only criteria to secure a place.
Krishna repeats this point almost in every chapter. He literally hammers because he knew in Kali Yuga, people in Kali Yuga would need hammering. Every chapter he hammers this point: bhakti, bhakti, and bhakti. And Krishna says that's the only way. Of course, that's not the only way in that sense. Of course, that's the only way Krishna describes. There are different levels of liberation which are also there. But you're talking about Goloka Vrindavan, wherein you mean you can have relationship in five rasa. That abode can only be attained through exclusive devotion, no other way. And not only devotion, devotion which has been blessed by Guru and Gauranga, which has the blessing of whole Guru Parampara and the Vaishnavas, only then we can go back to Godhead. All right?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
In fact, I have one more question, Prabhuji. As they say,
Raman, can we do one thing? We'll take one question at a time,
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji.
and you can always ping me. Okay?
Sure. Noted,
You
Prabhuji.
can take my contact number from Mother Dipasha and you can ping me and I'll respond. So I can interact with some more if there are some more questions. Yes. Mother Dipasha, do we have any more questions to take today?
Yes, Prabhuji, we have one question from Mininath Chaudhary ji. Mininath Chaudhary ji, are you available still? Although you have posted, yes, you may unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. I
Yes.
have allowed you.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, please.
Namaste.
Namaste.
My question is, we say that Lord Krishna controls everything. Then obviously the question comes then why Krishna allows to increase adharma in the world.
Mininath, right? Mininath ji, is this your first session of Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, yes.
So looks like you're not attended our level 1 Gita wisdom program, right?
No, this is my first
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, these all fundamental questions we take it and discuss at length in those series. Somebody needs to be muted. There is some radio sound coming from behind. So I can try to answer now, or else if you have similar questions, you can take access of that series of recorded sessions. You can also watch it. That will help clarify many other doubts like this. Okay? So, because that will help you understand the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita more when basic fundamentals are clear in that sense. So, just to help you give you a quick answer, I missed your question again. What was your exact question?
Why Sri Krishna?
Adharma. Why Krishna allowed adharma to flourish?
Yes.
Well, Krishna very clearly says in Bhagavad Gita, I have created this world, but I am not involved in the intricacies and the activities of the people of this world. The things of this world happen according to the individual and the cumulative karma of the people living in this world. I do not interfere in the free will of a living entity. So to say Krishna allowed adharma or not allowed adharma, the point is for you and I to be in this world itself shows, according to what we have already discussed in the fundamental, the level 1 program, where material world is compared to a prison house, which means all of us are prisoners. All of us are criminals in a way that we already violated the laws of the Lord or the laws of our eternal Father, for which the Father, against His will, have sent us all here to try to fulfill all our desires. Anyways, we are part of the world which is anyways adharmic. However, for us to live here, Krishna created some rules of conduct so that at least we can, fulfill some amount of desires, if not all. So it is not that Krishna facilitates; it is individual who do so. Second point, 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says right in the opening, there are two living entities created in this world. One is called as divine, other is demoniac. You will always find these two kind of varieties of people always at all times. Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali Yuga. When the divine is in the ruling party, then you have establishment of dharma. When the demoniac is in the ruling party, then you have adharma. That is the whole point. And rest of the all, Krishna does not interfere. Krishna does not have time to deal with what's going on here. Look at his photo. He's so busy playing his flute. Why would he ever come to this place? He's already blissfully engaged, and we decided to turn away from him. So he created a facility for us to be here. Okay, so please listen to those initial recordings that will help more on the subject matter. So that's the reason we conducted a level 1 program prior to level 2. So if you don't have access to those recordings, you can connect with the host. Host can give, or maybe tomorrow I'll request our host to share the list, or I can request the host now to share the list of the playlist of Gita Wisdom for our participants, so they can go and access on YouTube at any time that way. So if you stay for another 1 minute, one of the hosts will share the list of the playlist, or the link of the playlist here. In the meantime, we can just take one final question here. if there is anything.
Prabhuji, I can see raised hands from Sachin Prabhuji, and also I think Akriti also is having one question.
Okay, so let's take these two questions conclude for today. We can have both of them go ahead.
Sachin Prabhuji, I'm allowing you to unmute yourself. Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna. Who is speaking and from where?
Guruji, I'm
Okay.
Sachin Bhutekar from
Okay.
Pune.
Okay, Sachin, yes.
Guruji, I have one question that we saw in this first shloka. Dhritarashtra was worried about the effect of Dharma Kshetra on his sinful sons. So nowadays, a lot of people visit holy places and they take darshan of the Lord, but still we don't see that there is a transformation of their heart, or any this dharma kshetra or holy dham having any place, any effect on their heart. So why he was worried about him?
See, who says there is no effect? Have you visited ISKCON temple, Sachin?
Yes, Prabhuji, I am connected with the temple.
Perfect. Let me ask a simple question. When you go to a temple, do you feel a sense of peace of mind?
Yes, Prabhuji, I feel very much.
So everyone have some effect when they go to the holy places. That's the reason people are going to holy places. The point is, what do they do after going to holy places? It's just going to a holy place is not going to make a demoniac into a divine. This discussion will also come ahead. Unless you go to a holy place and find a sadhu, take a saintly association, transformation does not happen. And in the Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, only not the place, the influence was a worry for Dhritarashtra. Krishna himself was personally present. Dharmraj Yudhishthira was himself present. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
The great personalities were present. It's not that Duryodhan went for a stroll at Kurukshetra where there was nobody, and then Dhritarashtra becoming worried. अरे मेरा लड़का रात को घूमने के लिए नाइट वॉक के लिए कुरुक्षेत्र चला गया है ऐसा ना हो वहां के इन्फ्लुएंस में उसके सारे पाप कर्म खत्म हो जाए so that was not the point. You already have best of the dharma personified people standing there. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Prabhuji, just an add-on, it's just a clarificatory question pertaining to the first shloka itself. Was Dhritarashtra hopeful that Duryodhan would back out, or was he fearful that he would back out?
Oh, he was fearful. If he was hopeful, then we would be glorifying Dhritarashtra. He was fearful because he didn't want that to happen. That's the reason I called him as a mafia don. All right. So thank you all. So happy to connect with you, although I don't know who all are you there actually, because you can't see and interact online forum. But hopefully over the span of 18 days, we'll get to interact and know you more. So thank you so for joining. Have a wonderful and blissful 24 hours, not 24 hours. We meet again in 22.5 hours. Precisely 22 and 27, 22 hours, 27 minutes. It's 9 o'clock and 3 minutes right now, okay? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. If you have any feedback, please do share with us. If you have any question which we couldn't answer, we couldn't take it, please post to us. We'll share it with Madan Sundar Prabhuji, and we'll share back his response also to you. Any suggestions, any queries, if you have related to the platform, if you are facing any technical glitches, please do message us. We'll try to resolve as quickly as possible from our end. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Have a blissful Krishna night. Hare Krishna, Sai Shashwat. Good night.